Hey everyone, Bill McLeod here. So a lot of things come up about rent to own. As you know, I'm a real estate agent and I specialize in a lot of rentals. Also property development. I'm a licensed holder for condominium management. I'm a landlord, former police officer, and I think I said real estate agent, right? So anyway, it comes up a lot about rent to own, and rent to owns irk me because I've heard the behind the scenes of people who put up rent to owns. Now, it doesn't mean this means, doesn't mean it's for all, some of the stuff I've heard about rent to own. But it's a strategy, and sometimes it's a strategy to fail. Sometimes it gets perceived as a strategy to fail, even though it's not. So simply how it works. Tenant pays a monthly rent, a portion goes to the down payment, and a set price can be determined later. Sometimes they set this price earlier. Usually it'll involve two contracts, a lease agreement, and an option to purchase. So let's think about something for a second. When you buy a house on rent to own, you don't get to say the house is worth $500,000 and then work out the math on $500,000. Because if you were to get a traditional mortgage, that $500,000 house, by the time you're done over 25 years, may cost you $900,000. So sometimes these guys will set a price at $800,000 or $750,000 as a set price with no interest. And then that's what you'll pay over the years. Now, the problem is you sometimes do, how much would it be to rent a $500,000? Let's say a typical bungalow, you might pay $2,000 a month to rent. But what they're telling you is we'll hold some of it for a down payment. But you're going to pay more than $200,000 or $2,000 for rent. You may end up paying $2,500 for rent, which now is starting to set you up to fail. And if you pay $2,500 for rent on that lease and you're 2 years into it and something happens, you don't get any of that back. The saved down payment that is the $500 per month. I mean, you put $12,000, $13,000 extra into this place just to rent it. And then maybe your partner lost a job or you lost a job or something changed in your situation. You're now out of luck for all that money that you saved. You'd be better to rent a normal place and save the money yourself. That way, if something happens, you can draw on that money. So sometimes they say it's an easier path because you can have bad credit or you can have no credit. And you need time to save for a down payment and you want to test owning a home before buying it. But it's a pretty expensive test. So for those reasons, I don't highly recommend it, or be very, very careful. It has worked. You'll hear some success stories. If everything goes perfect and you pay the extra $500 a month, for instance, and it works for your down payment and you get the down payment and you get the house for $750, in the end, it can be a fantastic deal. Okay, so it's just getting there is a tough road, but when you do get there, it could be good at the end, right? But keep in mind there are some pros and some cons. So like I said, the pros are if you don't have great credit, they're still happy to put you in it. Okay, so here's another thing too. After the 3 years, when the lease is up and you've paid that extra $500, you have to be able to qualify for a mortgage. So your credit needs to get better despite you paying about $500 more rent. Your credit has to get better enough that you can qualify for a mortgage. Now, not all mortgages are from the bank. Some are from private lenders, and that's going to be costly. You can get them because now you have a house with some equity, maybe some equity in it, or not a lot, but they still may lend with a personal guarantee on the home. But again, what if you don't get your credit rating where you want it? Like, let's say you have bad credit, you're sitting around 500 or 600, and 3 years from now, you're still around 600 and no one's going to give you a mortgage. Then what? Then maybe you get the option to renew with that seller for another 3 years of paying an extra $500, or maybe they just cancel and say, nope, you had 3 years to buy it, you can't, we're now looking for a new potential buyer. Then all that money you saved is gone. Okay, so the cons are higher monthly payments, loss of option for frees and credits if they walk away. Your credit may be even worse now, and you can't qualify for a mortgage. If the market drops, then you could be locked in at a higher price. So let's say you agree to the 750, but the market drops and that house is only worth 350 now. And like we just had 2016, 17, 18, 19, where a bungalow was selling for almost $900,000, but now they're down to $500,000. So let's say you agreed to pay $900,000 for it, and now the value of your house is $350,000, but you've got a written contract to pay $900,000. So things can change in 3 years, and they've proven that. So you're also a lot of times responsible for all the maintenance on that house over the 3 years. So you got to be very careful of what your lease says and that second contract where you're buying it, okay? Now, there are some pros. For the landlords or sellers, they have pros. They have stable rent income. They have better tenants because they're more invested in the home, and the ability to sell someone who wouldn't normally qualify, and they can charge above market. So another thing, market rent, and they could charge above market for sale price, potentially. So be very, very careful. Again, we'll use a $500 home as an example. After a mortgage, it costs $900,000, we'll say. So this landlord could come up and say, you have bad credit, you're never going to buy a home, but I will put you in this one, but we agree to $1 million for the sale price of the home. That'll include all the interest that you would have paid. You would have paid $900 with the bank, but you'll never qualify. So what's an extra 10%, right? So they charge that on you. Now, if you get past those 3 years, you get it, but this house drops in value to $350 from $500. Now it would have only been worth $700. Now you're on the hook for an extra $300,000. Now that you got to be careful about, because when you go in 3 years to mortgage from the bank, no one's going to qualify you, right? So, and those scenarios are if the owner continues to sell it to you. So he provides the mortgage to you. Now, bank, the owner may say the house is worth $500. We agree to $500 in 3 years. There's two sides to this: the private investor and the bank. So now, when you get banks involved, $500,000 house, you agree to buy it for $500,000. You do all your stuff, and 3 years later, you've made every payment, but the house is only worth $350 now. You go to the bank to get a mortgage; they will not mortgage you for $500,000. They'll mortgage you for $350, and then you just can't get it. And then the owner says, "Well, you didn't qualify, so you're done." They're keeping your 3 years of extra payments, right? So it's a very difficult game. You really have to know the market. My suggestions are: have a lawyer really look over the contract work you have and really study the market. It wouldn't hurt to have some sort of advisor or even talk to a real estate agent about how the market's going. But none of us have a crystal ball. Nobody knew the market was going to shoot up like it did in 2016. So be very, very careful of rent to own. If it was my family, I discourage anything. Just rent. I would say rent a cheaper apartment for 3 years. If you're used to, a 3-bedroom apartment paying $2,000, can you get yourself down to a 2-bedroom, a little less nice, but it's only for 3 years, and you can save a lot more money, and you can get your credit rating up by paying off everything you owe. Go to the collection agencies, contact them if you have them, and pay everything off, or get some savings up, get your credit cards down. There's kind of a 40% rule on credit cards. Make sure you're only carrying a 40% balance or slightly less to have your credit rating start to go up, right? So it's tricky, but if you ever want to talk about rent to own, or if you're ever in that situation, feel free to talk to me about it. It's definitely an advantage of the seller. And the bad news, what I heard is, this is a game. They put people in these houses and they'll rent to own a house forever because they keep getting $500 more rent a month, example, and nobody ever buys it. So they own it and they get a lot more money. Anyway, rent to own, be very, very careful. It can be okay, but it's a rough road. All right, so please, if you like the information, please subscribe. I should say that at the start, but I'd love to see you subscribe, and I have lots more. I'm going to talk about mold. I'm going to talk about scams. I'm going to talk about the notices that favor tenants, notices that favor landlords, and we'll try to get everything in there for you. All right, thank you.